Hello, welcome back. Good to post another video. I wanted to show you where we are. Made quite a bit of progress since the last one. As you can see, I've got the passenger side door temporarily reinstalled. It's going to come back off, but I had to go ahead and make sure I was getting a decent fit because we went ahead and put the rocker in place. If you remember, I had to build and make my own internal rocker, the inside rocker, and I had to make sure that my new outer rocker fit up and everything in such a way that the door closed properly and all my gaps were within reason. Also, what happened was I ordered from it's from Midwest Bayless, this lower rocker part here, and I actually wanted them to send me the piece that came out further than this one, but they kind of cut me short by a couple of inches of what I needed. So this door sweep here wouldn't work. I would have had to fabricate that, which was for me would have been virtually impossible. So what I wound up doing was reusing the old one, which fortunately I had saved and cleaned it up and everything, and was able to put that together to make that work. And I don't know if you can, I'll try to get it in here on the camera. You can see it's just in a temporary, well, this actually is going to come forward a little bit here on this, but it's a pretty good fit. And so when it finally goes in, I'm not going to be too far off in my gaps that it can't be adjusted out. And that's really what I wanted to make sure of. I'm actually really tickled with the door, because as long as this thing was on the rotisserie, I was afraid that I would have some real door issues, but that doesn't look like it's going to be the case. The other thing was we got the seat rails installed, and I took very careful measurements when putting these in, and I even tried doing it at first with the seats in place to sort of position where they would go, and that did not work at all. The seats are just too heavy and awkward, and they, as you can see, there's a tilt, they lean sort of back, and it just made the seats want to fall backwards. So that really didn't work. So I just took really careful measurements, and guess what? They were off. So they're just off very little, but just enough to keep the rails, the upper rails, from going into place. So I'm pretty sure I have a solution for it. These are in place. There's no way they're going to come out. So I tear up the floor pan trying to get them back out. So that's not an option. But what we're going to do is, here's the original seats. If you look down here, this is the frame, and here's the top rails. So what I'm going to do is remove these rails from this frame, and then I'll use those and bring them over, and we will put those in place on the bottom rail, and then I will weld members across like that, and make that top rail assembly just one solid piece assembly that I can then re-weld to the bottom of the seat, and that should solve that problem. So the other issue that we had was, if you can see over here around that back fender wall, there's a panel below that rail right there that sort of separates the two areas. And the same is true on the passenger side, except it was completely gone and had to be cut out. And once I removed the partition, I could plainly see the damage. And so we had to take that out. I've got a repair panel fabbed up. It's a little rough, but it'll be finalized before we put it in. But I can't really put that in right now because I need access from the inside when I go to do my my quarter panel repair down there. So before I did that, I had to make sure that my rocker would be in the right position and my door would be would fit. So I had to jump ahead a little bit, but that's okay because I'm tickled with the way the door turned out. The other thought I had was in the front on the trunk. and this is where I would appreciate your thoughts and your comments, is when I go to clean all this up, I've got a couple of bottles of that Raptor liner left, and since it is tintable, I'm thinking of getting the car color and tinting that Raptor liner and spraying the entire trunk and battery area with the Raptor liner. And the color would match the rest of the body, but it would just be harder and more rigid and stiff, and I think it would go a long way towards this car never having any of these kind of issues again. So you know, if that's, I know that's not OEM, but I'm trying to think long term for the car and what would work best. So anyway, your thoughts on that, I would appreciate it. Other than that, that's pretty much where we are. Hopefully we'll get the that rear partition. As you can see, I've got the end fabricated and onto it. I've got the replacement metal at the bottom put on there, and so that's pretty much ready to go. It'll take a little bit of filler when we actually get it back into place in order to make sure that the curves and everything line up, but that shouldn't be a problem. So hopefully we'll get this thing in epoxy primer here before much longer, and you know, I'll post another video when we get that ready. So that's where we are. Appreciate you subscribing. If you haven't, please do. And also comment. I love to read other people's thoughts on what's happening. So, alrighty, have a good one.